All right, here's lesson number 2 in ecosystems. Energy flow in ecosystems. Just like all of your lessons, I'll go through these PowerPoints fairly quickly. You're supposed to pause them on each slide so that you can write these into whatever you're using for a notebook. And then you can use those on certain assessments. So let's start with energy. Everything, all living organisms require energy to live. And the main source of energy is radiant energy from the sun. That can be ultraviolet, it can be visible light, it can be, those are just 2 examples of types of radiant energy that come from the sun. There's also radio waves, microwaves, infrared rays, X-rays, gamma rays, and all of those have energy and can be used as sources of energy. 70% of the sun's energy is absorbed by the hydrosphere. If you remember from yesterday, the hydro means water. So that's all of the water that covers our planet. That can be frozen, it can be gas, can be in liquid form. And also the lithosphere. And if you remember from last lesson, the lithosphere is all the land. And being absorbed by the hydrosphere and lithosphere doesn't mean the energy disappears. One of the laws in physics, the law of conservation of energy, says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another without any loss. So what it is it's converted into thermal energy, which is just a real science nerdy way of saying heat. It's converted into heat. 30% of the sun's energy is reflected back into space. And just a tiny little percentage, 70 and 30, that adds up to 100. So you might think, well, where's this extra 0.023%? Well, it's in there. It's just not even a significant enough amount to mention in the 70 and 30. 0.023% is absorbed directly by living organisms through a process that we'll learn about in this course called photosynthesis. And then you have a nice little graphic here with the sun's energy, 100%. Some of it's reflected back into space, some of it's absorbed by the atmosphere, some of it's absorbed by the surface of the earth and the hydrosphere and the lithosphere. So photosynthesis is the process in which energy from the sun is converted into chemical energy. Without photosynthesis, life on Earth would not exist, at least not in the form that it currently exists. An example are green plants. They are organisms that make their own food. How do they do it? Well, basically, they take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, along with some water up from their roots, along with some energy from the sun. What am I going to write? I'm going to write energy really terribly. And they give off energy, some more oxygen, and carbon dioxide. In photosynthesis, there's a chemical that's very important. It's called chlorophyll. The color of chlorophyll is green, as you may have guessed, and it's what gives green plants their green color. And certain microorganisms like algae captures the light's energy. And they use that energy to produce 2 chemical compounds. And the following is the word equation for photosynthesis. Ooh, I'm going to have to write that out for you. So it's carbon dioxide with some water, add in some light energy, and that's what I was trying to show you on the last slide with that picture, but this is a better representation of it. Produces sugar and oxygen. And that's what you can't see there, guys. Sugar and oxygen. The sugar, you might think, well, how does it make that? Well, the formula for carbon dioxide is CO2. The formula for water is H2O. So certainly you can see how you can get oxygen out of that. There's oxygen in the water and there's oxygen in the carbon dioxide. The chemical formula for sugar, natural sugar glucose, is C6H12O6. That means 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms. And then the formula for oxygen is just O2. Don't worry about the chemical formula for now. Worry about the word equation. It takes carbon dioxide and water with some light energy to produce sugar and oxygen underneath my face. It's a very important process. Life on Earth would not exist without this process. So hopefully you can pause this or even go back before I scribbled all over it and write that word equation out. Carbon dioxide plus water. The arrow in chemistry represents a chemical reaction. It just means that there's a chemical reaction taking place, and that's the lazy short way to write chemical reaction. So if you're wondering what that big long arrow is for, it's to represent that we've had a chemical change taking place here. Again, pause it wherever you need to so you can catch up. Cellular respiration is often referred to as a complementary process to photosynthesis, because photosynthesis produces stored energy in the form of sugar. Again, that's that C6H12O6 that comes out of photosynthesis. Cellular respiration is the process by which sugar is then converted into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. And I'm talking pretty fast here, but if you were to slow this down or pause it and think about it, you might be able to think of why these processes are often considered opposites of each other. In photosynthesis, you're taking carbon dioxide and water, and you're making oxygen and sugar. And in cellular respiration, you're taking sugar and oxygen and making carbon dioxide and water. So it's almost exactly the reverse. Where's my arrow here? I'm missing my arrow. There it is there. Let me go back so you guys can see that. So it should look very similar to the last one, except now you've got sugar combining with oxygen. Again, this is your C6H12O6. Combining it with oxygen, it's almost like a combustion reaction. You know, it's almost like burning something. You'd have this plus O2 plus oxygen component anytime you're burning something. So it's almost like you're burning sugar to give yourself energy, and it produces carbon dioxide, CO2. It makes water, which is H2O, and it makes energy, which is not a chemical. It's energy. And that's how your cells do everything. That's how you're able to grow. That's how your cells divide. That's how they repair. That's the way that I'm able to talk right now and how your brain cells are hopefully working right now. It's from that energy. So your body needs this process. You need cellular respiration. Now, we don't use photosynthesis to get the sugar in the first place. We eat stuff. We eat the plants. The plants make the sugars and the proteins and stuff like that, and we eat them. Some animals eat those plants, and then we eat those animals too. So unlike photosynthesis, cellular respiration occurs continuously. That means no light is required. So, like I said before, these reactions are said to be complementary of each other. Humans and animals need to consume other organisms or their products for energy because we can't make our own energy from the sun. In return, they produce carbon dioxide and water needed for photosynthesis. So we breathe out carbon dioxide. The plants use the carbon dioxide to make their energy. So there's a cycle there. Not all energy is transferred on. Some of the energy is used for building materials within the organism to live and survive. So some energy is used up just through what you guys do in your day-to-day lives. Again, just an infographic here with for photosynthesis. We got water and light giving us chemical energy. The chloroplasts trap the light energy. Water enters the leaves up from the roofs. Light energy comes in. Carbon dioxide enters through part of the leaf called a stomata, and the sugar leaves the leaf to give energy or some form of energy to the rest of the cell. So hopefully you got a good idea here of what these processes are. I just want to do one more thing, and if you didn't already write down the chemical equations, or the word equations at least, for photosynthesis, I just want to write them down right next to each other so you guys can see them. So let me just turn on a whiteboard here. Let's see if this works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And I just want to zoom in so that I can write these things out for you. So for photosynthesis, we are combining carbon dioxide with water to produce sugar and oxygen. So that's what the plants do. The sugar they use for themselves, the oxygen they release to the atmosphere, and that's how we're able to breathe and do our thing. Whereas cellular respiration, and this is done by both plants and animals, is taking that sugar, essentially burning it in a way, to produce carbon dioxide and water. And of course, energy. And that's essentially the way that living things operate here on Earth. Those are the two main chemical reactions that take place that allow us to live. The plants produce the oxygen, and they also produce some sugar for themselves. And then plants and animals, they use some of that oxygen and the sugar that they've stored to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. That carbon dioxide goes back to the plants. It's a very small percentage of the Earth's atmosphere, but it's enough for the plants to undergo photosynthesis. And of course, you may be thinking to yourself, well, where is the sunlight in this? It takes place in photosynthesis. It's not technically a part of the chemical reaction. It's just required for it. The energy of it is required for it. So I'm just going to write sun, and I'm just going to put an arrow that says that it goes into that process right there. So that's a decent little summary of the two main chemical reactions that we're supposed to be learning about today. And that does bring us to the last slide here. So let me go back to our PowerPoint. I don't think there was anything that we were missing there. And I just want to get you guys set up on what's left for block 2 here. So I'm going to open it up. Block 2 from about 9:55 to 10:52, depending. So it says, do a note on photosynthesis and cellular respiration. I know it didn't take me 25 minutes, but you guys are supposed to be pausing it here and there so that you can stay caught up and write down all the information into your notebook. Then I have a worksheet on photosynthesis and cellular respiration that is attached. And you can find that down in there. Now, some of these things will ask you to use textbook pages, and hopefully I have attached those textbook pages. It's kind of getting a little jumpy here. I'm going to open it right up so that we can scroll through it. That's a little better. Now, I don't have any good animations or anything like that as a part of my lesson and my notes. So there is a 6-minute YouTube video on photosynthesis and respiration. You should watch that as well. It's just 6 minutes long. There's 2 assignments here to do on photosynthesis and respiration. And if required, I will take up these sheets with you. Especially this one actually can be tricky. At least in the past, when I've done it with classes, it's been a little bit tricky for students to do. But if you look through the pages and you think about and write down the note that we just went through, then you should be okay. And then this one here is much easier. It's just based on pages 20 and 21, and it's mostly a fill in the blank scenario that you can just add to your stuff. The best way to do those fill in the blanks would be to be able to print it out and write into it. If you have the ability to write on PDFs using your phone or your tablet or whatever you're working on, then that would be a great way to do it too. Otherwise, I mean, you can write all this out, but that would be a little time consuming for you after you just wrote down a note on this. If you have the endurance to do that, then feel free to do that. Or if I decide this is something I need to collect from you, then I would just accept you writing the answers in order to the blanks. Okay, so at the very bare minimum, do that. But hopefully you can use one of those other methods in case I need that from you. It's going to be more meaningful to you and useful to you if you can do it that way. It did say you needed pages 20 and 21, so there they are here. I don't know how well this picture will look, but it, like if you're using a cell phone to learn this stuff, it's a very small screen. You'll have to put your phone probably in landscape mode to see this nice comparison between photosynthesis and cellular respiration. But that'll do it for the lesson in Block 2. Make sure you go back if you didn't already and write all this information down. And I will see you guys right after lunch. So after you finish this, you can start your lunch. Lunch is supposed to start at 10:52 and take us till 11:37. So I'll be back on Google Meet at 11:37, and I'll be taking attendance no later than 11:40. So make sure you're there to get set up on the next block. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. Thank you very much.